So we've been working on exponents with positive and negative bases. So for example, we have learned that 2 squared, or 2 to the second power, is equal to, in its expanded form, what this would be is 2 times 2 equals 4. And then standard form, the answer is 4. So this is exponential form, this is expanded form, this is standard form. So what we've also learned is that negative 2 squared equals negative 2 times 2, which equals negative 4. So the rule is here, there's no parentheses with the negative. We're going to carry the negative over to the answer always. The way I was always taught to write it was not like this. The way I was taught to write it in expanded form was actually negative parentheses 2 times 2 equals negative 4. Same thing. The students actually prefer this first way though, so I'm trying not to confuse them with my original method. But the other way that we're learning negative bases is with a parentheses. So negative 2 squared equals negative 2 times negative 2. And we know that two negatives equals a positive, so the answer is still 4. The students also know the rule of negative bases in parentheses. We're going to go ahead and look at the exponent. If it's even, the answer will be positive. If the exponent is odd, the answer will be negative. Now, this is only problems like this that have negative bases with a parentheses. Otherwise, this does not apply. The other thing we're working on is positive and negative exponents with positive and negative bases. So for example, we're going to have 2 to the negative square root, or 2 to the negative 2. What this negative exponent means is not so much a negative or positive number like it was with the base, but it actually means it wants us to do the opposite of what exponents would normally do. So when I prove this to you in expanded form, it's not going to be 2, it's going to be the opposite of 2. And we know that 2 in fraction form is equal to 2 over 1, so its reciprocal, or its opposite, is equal to 1 over 2. So when you have a negative exponent, what you're going to do is you're going to take the base number and use its reciprocal. So this is going to turn into 1/2 times 1/2 equals 1/4. Now, you could also have a negative exponent with a negative base. Negative 2 to the negative second power, same thing, we take the opposite, the base, the reciprocal of the base, which is negative 1/2 times 1/2 equals negative 1/4. Again, the rule is with those negative bases with no parentheses, we're basically going to take that negative and drag it over. Then we have negative bases with parentheses and negative exponents. And this is going to be written in expanded form, negative 1/2 times negative 1/2, which 2 negatives equal a positive. So this answer is going to be 1/4. The other thing we're working on is square roots. And the one thing we noticed about square roots is when we look at the vocabulary word square, that looks very familiar to us. We know that when something is squared, it is to the second power. So what square roots are is it's asking you what number squared would equal another number. So for example, what number squared equals 16? And again, this is square root of 16. So we would say that 4 squared, 4 times 4 equals 16. But we would also say that negative 4 times negative 4 equals 16. So the square root of 16 equals plus or minus 4. It could be positive 4 and it could be negative 4. We've proven that by writing it in expanded form. So let's do another one. The square root of 25. Well, basically this is asking us what number squared equals 25. We know that 5 times 5 equals 25. And we also know that negative 5 times negative 5 equals 25. So our answer for square root of 25 is equal to plus or minus 5. Sometimes you'll get a number that is not a perfect square root. So for example, it might ask you, what is the square root of 18? Well, we could simplify this more, and that's something we'll talk about later. But what we also want to do is we want to estimate about where the square root of 18 is. So, for example, we know that 4 squared equals 16. We know that 5 squared equals 25. We know that 18 is between 16 and 25, closest to 16. So we would say that our answer is going to be somewhere between 4 and 5, but closer to 4 than 5. We're also talking about negative square roots. So again, when you have a negative square root of 16, we know when you just have the square root of 16, the answer could be plus or minus 4, but when you have this negative sign, you drag that negative sign over and you know that your answer is negative 4. Not plus or minus 4, but it's negative 4. Last thing we're going to go over with square roots is square rooting fraction numbers, which looks complicated, but it's actually not. I'm going to move up here because I don't have a lot of space left. So for example, if you get a square root that looks like this, what you're going to do is you're going to dissect this problem. You're going to take it to a numerator and a denominator. So this is going to equal the square root of 9 over the square root of 16. Now we know the square root of 9 is plus or minus 3. And the square root of 16 is plus or minus 4. So our answer is plus or minus 3/4. So just to recap, we're going to have a test that goes over exponents with positive and negative bases. We're going to have also positive and negative exponents. So again, remember that is the reciprocal of the base. So instead of 2, it's going to be 1/2, just like in our example. We're also going to need to know square root information. So we're going to need to know that the square root of 16 is plus or minus 4. We need to know how to solve for negative square roots, which is basically taking that negative sign and plugging it into our answer, our standard form answer. And we're also going to need to know about solving square root with fractions within the square roots. The last thing we're going to need to know about is answering or estimating answers that don't have perfect square roots. So for example, we use square root of 18. We knew was between 4 and 5, but closest to 4 because 4 squared is 16. So our test will be Friday. Make sure you study all of this information and you'll do great. Have a good day.